Okay, I'm back. Off camera, I just quick snipped the power cables off the card because this one already had broken off or was flexing. I have left a small little stub of the wire with the jacket color left on it at all the points, so it's when I go to line them back up again, it's like, oh yeah, black, black, red, red. Also marked in permanent marker on the card what they were on the backside, just so I can see what's going on. Also, I numbered all of my row drivers just for when I'm tracing it through for this next part. Turn that on, that's on. Reach my eye. Oh, excuse me. I think next up, I'm going to start desoldering and removing this chunk of LEDs. Basically, anything related to them, I'm going to get rid of because I don't plan on using them. And that also gives me spare LEDs to fix any burnt out ones I may find. But before I do that, I sort of want to know how they're wired. Grab the chair. Now, my theory on life right now is they're just driven off these row drivers with some extra column drivers thrown in for them. But to prove that, I need to poke through everything. One interesting trace is this one right here. He sort of meanders his way back and through, and he looks like plus V LED. So I'm going to grab plus V LED here and poke this terminal at LED, and it is plus V LED. This LED is on his lonesome. He's hooked to this resistor, which then feeds back to what looks like this 273. Apparently he was special and he's not multiplex, so he can be turned on or off independently of all the other LEDs. Right now I'm hooked onto column 2's driver collector, which feeds, this whole row of LEDs across the card. Now I want to see which of these LEDs are also hooked to that guy. And then when I find them, better marker Sharpie, I'm just going to put a little mark by them so I know who is what. As you can see, this is very exciting stuff. Oop, right there. And I'll just put a dot, which means he's a column-driven LED. Now, before I started this, I looked at the front side of the card, and all the LEDs are facing this way. So the negative side of the LED is towards this side of the card. So I don't have to worry about which side I poke on, because they're all facing the same way. Okay, so that's all the LEDs for column 2. So let's move to 3. And this pattern here looks familiar to me from when I was poking the column drives with the power on, because basically those LEDs lit up. And so on. I'll probably speed this segment up just because this is about as fun to watch as paint drying. Where is that 8th row? Unless it's on... Oh, it's on the top side. So I've found connections to all these LEDs, except for this one, looping back through this edge into these. I may need to cut this side of the card off in order to get close enough to the other array to make one continuous, evenly spaced looking display. Also, unless I put little labels next to each one of these and assign them some random function, they don't really do much. So they're just going to get unsoldered, sucked off, and called good. Start with here, I'm going to unsolder the LEDs and save them. This series resistor, because he's useless, because this LED will be gone. And these little posts, because I just keep snagging them on stuff, and they're kind of prickly. So, off to the solder sucker we go. Never underestimate the value of a good solder sucker. First off, these guys. One. Some of these pins have both a lot of mass and a big solder plane on them, so they're kind of hard to suck out. I may just have to trim this one off. Or not. Okay. What I failed to see on the previous pins is they have a little step on them. So they only come out this side of the card. And the last really cruddy one. And that's that. I'm gonna plug my soldering iron real quick here, since I won't be using it much today. Next up, LEDs. Hopefully these will come out a little easier. I'd say a little, but not a lot easier. Again, I want to save the LEDs just in case I find some bad ones. They're the same matched ones. So if I have to replace one, it should be the same color. Color is usually pretty consistent, but brightness can vary greatly between batches of LEDs, especially if you have to mix new vintage versus something that's, how old is this thing? 30 years old? Okay, so first LED and resistor is out. Now it's time for these. So just sort of step and repeat. Okay, LEDs are done. While I'm in here, I'm also going to pull this socket just so I can see what's below it. Practically, there's no reason to pull it. It doesn't draw any current or hurt anything. It's just in the way from seeing what's around it for tracing traces and stuff through the card. We'll see if I'm able to get it out without destroying it too. My guess is there was probably some sort of little accessory panel that plugged in here. It's too small to be an EEPROM socket, and if it was a logic gate socket, you'd think something wouldn't function without it. So they used to sell, may probably still do sell, little IDC ribbon cable ends that look like IC ends. So you crimp this connector on the end of a ribbon cable, and then you could plug it straight into one of these IC sockets. They were kind of common in computers in the 80s. Apple, Apple IIe's, those types of guys used them extensively. But with the move to smaller and smaller package footprints and connectors, they've sort of died out in recent years.